Hey everybody, and welcome to our second prerequisite video, Prerequisite B, and this is all things rhythm. In our past video, we did all things keyboard and all things music staff, but now we're going to get to do one of my favorite topics because it turns out that the piano is actually classified as a percussion instrument, and therefore we need to embrace our percussion roots. And for a minute, let's forget about all 10 of our fingers and all 88 of the keys, and let's make sure that we've got just the simple right and left hand figured out, all right? So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to briefly visit the idea of subdivision, and then we're going to talk about the steady beat and how we can have a mental model of our right brain and our left brain to help us understand that. And then we will actually do a hands-on preview of what our rhythmic warm-ups are going to be like with a two-handed eighth note pattern. And like I said, this is a preview of what we're going to be doing at the beginning of each of our actual weekly videos, where we will be doing a rhythmic warm-up for each of those. All right, let's get started on subdivision. Now the thing is that most of this information is pretty readily available on the internet, and so we won't spend too much time on this concept, but this is supposed to be your one-stop shop for all of these things, so we will briefly review it, all right? So first of all, let's talk about the idea of the time signature. Here we have a 4/4, and what that is telling us is that every measure is going to have 4 beats. So a measure are these little spaces right here, which we see are divided by a bar line, all right? So in this piece, every one of our lines has 2 measures, and each one of those measures is going to contain 4 beats. Now, 4/4 is the most common time signature, and so we will be mostly sticking with 4/4 for right now, but you can change that. You can put different numbers of beats in the measures. We're not going to worry about that right now, okay? Now this all brings us to the concept of the whole note. This is at the top of our subdivision pyramid, and the whole note is equal to 4 beats. So any note that's written as a whole note will be held out for 4 beats, all right? And just as important, to the right of our whole note, we have the whole rest. Because here's the thing about music. It's not just about what you play. It's also about the spaces that you create. So what you don't play is just as important as what you do play, and therefore we have rests, all right? Now if you divide a whole note into half, you get 2 half notes, and each one of those is equal to 2 beats, and you can see the half rest right next to it. And now this brings us to our most important layer, the quarter note layer, all right? We have each beat now is being symbolized by one of these notes, and we are going to actually start calling these downbeats. That is our percussionist, our drummer lingo. So quarter notes are each equal to 1 beat, and those are downbeats, all right? Next, we're gonna look, if you divide each of those quarter notes in half, you get the eighth note. And this is where the magic really happens. Because if we think about downbeats and we're counting those with numbers, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, in between each of those downbeats, my hand comes up, and there's a lot of magical space up here, which we call the upbeat. So eighth notes are actually the division of the beat into the downbeat and the upbeat. And when we have the upbeat, we say and. So we go 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, okay? So we are going to be extensively talking about downbeats and upbeats, or quarter notes and eighth notes, for quite a while now, and we will be visiting those in all of our rhythmic warm-ups for our lessons, and eventually we are going to be doing a really cool thing with these 2 layers called syncopation, all right? Now, I'm going to do a few honorable mentions here. I have to go over 3 things before we can move on. First of all, we have the triplet 8th layer and the 16th note layer. These are fascinating layers, and we will be reviewing them about halfway through this entire series. But for right now, they're just going to get a wave, and we're not really going to spend too much time on them because we really want to master that downbeat and upbeat, that quarter note and 8th note. Because if we can do that, then the triplet 8th and the 16th note will come much easier for us. I love those layers, but we're really not going to worry about them right now, okay? So the last thing that we're going to talk about right now, and I'll zoom in so we can demonstrate this, is the idea of a dotted note, okay? And so with a dotted note, what we do is we would put the dot just to the right of the note, like that, just like that, just like that. And what a dotted note is you are increasing that note's value by half of its original duration, all right? So let me say that again. You are increasing that note's value by half of its original duration. That means if you have a dotted whole note, you are increasing it by half of its original duration, which is 2, and so a dotted whole note is equal to 6. A half note is equal to 2, half of that is 1, you add them together, you get 3. A quarter note is actually 1 and a half beats. And so don't forget about those dotted notes because we will be seeing them. So now I would like to approach using the metronome, but before we do, I think it's really important that we set up a mental model for how to balance the different strengths of our brain to handle this task, all right? You see, we sort of have this left brain and this right brain mentality. The left brain is very important. All these documents that I've been showing you today are very left brain because it's the plan, it's the explanation of what we're gonna do. And usually you just feel your left brain all up in your mind and in your head, right? But what we need to also embrace is the idea of the right brain, all right? Because the right brain is how we feel. And I'm sure many of you who have been involved in music have definitely talked about the idea of feeling, and that is all in the right brain, all right? And so the thing about that is it's not just in your head, it's all the way through your body, all right? And so anytime you're trying to embrace rhythm, it's important that you maybe move your head, move your shoulders, move your arms, move your hips. You know, anytime you can embrace that inner dancer, you are really going to be helping your right brain, all right? Now here's the thing. It's not just about the left brain, it's not just about the right brain, it's about how we balance them together, all right? So when we want to successfully execute rhythm, the first thing we need to do is make the plan, all right? And that is all left brain, okay? Then what we want to do, after we know the plan, we want to make sure that we can feel the rhythm that we're going to want to be doing. We want to feel the basic downbeats and the basic upbeats. Once we have our body locked in and our right brain is going and our left brain has the plan, we want to combine those to execute the rhythmic task, the rhythmic problem, the rhythmic beat that we're going to be doing, all right? I find that a lot of people who come in here and study with me and are having problems with rhythm are usually overusing the left brain, okay? You know, I see them trying to get the rhythm and I can tell it's all happening right here in their head. I gotta count it, I gotta 1, 2, and the thing is that you'll never get it that way. Once we learn to get that rhythm moving through us and then use our left brain to execute the plan, that is when we gain that ease and we can just jump right into it, all right? So if you've been having problems with rhythm in the past, it's possible that you've just been overusing your left brain and that we need to embrace that right brain, all right? So with that said, let's talk about how we're going to use the metronome. So here we have a diagram of how we're going to connect the downbeats and the upbeats to the metronome, all right? Now, first of all, I've put eighth notes here. So this is showing both the downbeats and the upbeats. You can notice that the downbeats are coming first and we are counting those with numbers and playing them with our right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. In between those, we have our upbeats and we are saying and for each one of those, right? So that will be played with our left hand and it will look like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Before you even worry about trying to do that with a steady beat and using the metronome, just see if you can do what I just did. Say it and move your hands at the same time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, right, left, right, left. There we go. All right. Once you can do that, then we'll be ready to head on over to the drum and actually put this together with the metronome. Let's talk about connecting downbeats and upbeats with the metronome. Now, a few things before we actually get started on that. First of all, you'll notice that I'm sitting at a drum with some drumsticks, but this does not mean that you need drumsticks or a drum to do this. You can tap this on your desk, you can tap this out on the lid of your piano, you can tap it out on your legs. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you're using your right and your left hand. I'll be using a drum and a drumsticks to make it a little bit clearer, but do what works for you, all right? Now the other thing I want you to remember is that when I use my right hand, your right hand is across from me, and your left hand is across from me. So when you're using your right and your left hand, make sure you're actually using your right and your left hand, because it can be a little tricky when you're watching a video. All right, now the last thing I want to remind you of is that all of these exercises and all of the diagrams that you've seen on today's video are available for purchase on my website, pianodojo.com. So head on over there and grab those if you'd like to practice on your own time. But we're going to go ahead and get started with our metronome. Now I'm using an app on my phone for my metronome. You may have a digital metronome sitting around. You may even have one of those pendulum metronomes, and it really doesn't matter, because no matter what bells and whistles your metronome may or may not have, we only want it to click. We're going to do most of the work in our heads, all right? So we're only interested in something that clicks at a consistent tempo. So whatever metronome you choose to use is just fine. Now metronomes are measured in beats per minute, okay? Which we're gonna call BPM. So when you set that number on your metronome, it's gonna be the BPM. And today we're gonna start with 40 BPM, all right? Now we are going to imagine that those beats that we're hearing from the metronome are the downbeats. So we're looking at our connecting the downbeats and upbeats to the metronome diagram. We're going to count now. We're going to play our right hand on the downbeats with our metronome. Let's give it a try. Now remember, we talked about the left brain and we set up the plan. Now we're going to start feeling it with our right brain, and then we're going to count ourselves off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, right, down, down. There we go. Excellent. Now remember, there is that upbeat in between each one. So let's add that in with our left hand now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And there we have it. You may need to try that a few more times. Feel free to do it as much as you need, but we want to make sure that that right hand and that metronome are connected and that the left hand is coming in between. That's the plan. Don't forget to feel that sensation throughout your body as you're trying to do it, all right? Now here's another thing that we're going to be doing with our rhythmic warm-ups. We're not always going to have the metronome symbolizing the downbeat, all right? So without changing a single thing in our metronome, we're going to put it back on, but now instead of imagining that the clicks that we're hearing are the downbeats, let's imagine that it's the upbeat, all right? So that will go something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's play along with it. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Now the metronome is lining up with our left hand instead of the right hand like it was last time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now this can be a little tricky at first, and so a metaphor that I like to use to help you get onto this concept is if you visualize a ball and you're hitting that ball up against the wall. When you hit it, that's the downbeat, and when it hits the wall, that's the upbeat. 1, 2, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce, hit, bounce. All right, it's a lot like riding a bike. It may be hard at first and you will fall off. This is a lot less painful than a bike, but eventually once it clicks, you will be able to do it instantaneously, all right? So now let's take a look at our two-handed patterns, and this is going to be very similar to what our weekly rhythmic warm-ups are actually going to look like, all right? So you can see that we have 4 lines here, and each of those lines has 2 rows of notes, all right? Hence the two-handed patterns, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna read each of these lines 3 different times. So let's try that out with our metronome on line 1. We're going to keep it at 40 BPM, and we're going to imagine that these clicks are the downbeats, all right? So here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4, down, up, down, 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 together, right, together, 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 1 and 2. Let's switch our hands now. 1 and 2, 3, 4, down, up, down, 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 together, left, together, 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 1 and 2. Now get ready. We're going to do hands together on the top line. Here we go. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4. And there we have it, all right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to line 2, all right? We're going to speed our metronome up just a little bit to 45 BPM. And now on this one, we are going to imagine that the clicks of the metronome are on the upbeats, all right? So let's give that a try. Line 2, all 3 ways. 1, 2, 3, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and down, 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 up, together, 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 right, 1, 2, get ready to switch your hands. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and down, down, together, left, 1, 2, and now we're going to do it hands together, top line. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Fantastic. All right, so now we're going to move on to line 3, and we're going to do another technique with the metronome. As you can see at this point, it has been clicking 4 times per measure, whether that's 4 downbeats or 4 upbeats. But we are going to take away 2 of those training wheel beats, if you will. And so we will be speeding up to 50 BPM, but we're going to put our metronome on half time. So that means our metronome will be clicking at 25 while we're going at 50. And we will hear the metronome click as just the first and the third downbeat, all right? So we're going to read line 3 now with our metronome on half time representing the first and the third downbeat, all right? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3. Switch your hands. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Hands together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. All right, wow. That one was actually pretty hypnotic. You can easily get lost in that repetitive rhythm. But that brings us to our fourth line. As you can see in this fourth line, we won't have that problem, and we actually won't have that problem again, because just like as in this line, for all of our rhythmic warm-ups, it's going to be more like this, where each measure is going to have a different rhythm in it, a little bit more like actual music, all right? And so we're going to speed our metronome up to 30, which means we will actually be going at 60 BPM. The metronome will be at halftime, and now instead of representing the first and the third beat, let's have it represent the second and the fourth downbeat, all right? So here we go. We're going to get the metronome started. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Switch your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Hands together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we have it, all right? So that's going to be very, very similar to what we're going to do at the beginning of every lesson. Now remember, when you're practicing this on your own, when I turned the metronome on, I didn't just immediately try to jump into it, and that's a problem I see a lot of new people doing, right? Is you've got the plan in your brain, you've got the music in front of you, but you've got to incorporate that right side. So as you'll notice, every time I turn on the metronome, I listen for a moment, and I even move my body with it, and I get that right brain going, and then I execute the plan and the feeling together, and I successfully have rhythm, right? Now, the next video is, we're still going to be visiting rhythm, because we have one more layer to add before we actually reach what we're going to be doing in our rhythmic warm-up, and that is the wonderful world of syncopation, musical inflection, all right? Rhythmic inflection. And we'll talk all about that next week. Remember, you can purchase everything that you saw on this video from my website. Happy practicing, and I'm looking forward to talking about syncopation with you next time.